conversation. He is our expert analysis on all things tech. Joins us this morning. How are you?
I am great, although, as I hold my phone, I'm sort of wondering maybe I should get an older phone that doesn't have GPS built in. Now I'm starting to get afraid.
No kidding. Well, it doesn't seem to matter. Mike Truller was just saying before we came on the air during the break that it's not just about your cell phone. It's about the apps that are in there. So there's so much data and information that can be plucked out of the ether based on our behavior that tells us where we are and what we're doing.
Exactly. We don't think about it all that much, Dave, but really our phones are just stuffed with sensors, including GPS, but not limited to that. So, for example, all the radios on your phone can be used to paint a pretty comprehensive picture of what you've been up to, what you've been doing, who you've been connecting with. All of those sensors are basically like little electronic spies in your pocket. And even if you aren't directly interacting with your phone, in other words, you leave the house in the morning, you stick it in your pocket, you don't touch it all day, somewhere that picture is being painted just by the phone. It's quietly in the background, and who it gets shared with every time you install an app. Those apps, of course, are pulling that data together, sharing it with their respective motherships. So, where it goes, we don't really know. Of course, if we took the time to read the terms of use statements that we obviously ignore anytime we install something, we'd realize it's going everywhere. But no one pays attention to that. And so we have this, I call it this, we live in the surveillance age. We have a surveillance state that we've all basically volunteered for. It's not that someone is, deliberately spying on us. We consented to all of this. And now we have to live with the consequences. We have to accept the fact that there are companies and individuals and government agencies that know a heck of a lot more about us now than they would have even just a couple of years ago.
Well, yes, and to the other extent of it, though, is a lot of this is publicly available. I mean, when we look back at the story that the Toronto Star did, the Star, quote, analyzed public health and cell phone mobility data to understand what happened during the holidays and saw that people were moving around. So it's readily available. It's not like it's, hiding somewhere.
That's right. And, there are two ways to look at it. One, and of course, most people will look at this and go, wait a second, public data from my cell phone, oh my God. We're at the precipice of a catastrophe, a privacy catastrophe. And the truth of the matter is somewhat brighter than that. Is that this is not individual data. In other words, it's not that your data, in its unvarnished form gets shared out there and suddenly everyone knows exactly where Dave Trafford has been for the last week. This is anonymized or aggregate data that is requested by legitimate firms. In the Toronto Star's case, it was a marketing research firm and Veronix that accessed this data and then built the report around it. And so, the data is massaged to the point that no one can then reverse engineer it. In other words, no one can go in and use it to track back to a particular individual. This is data that is put together at a community level for the greater good. And so it's difficult to argue that this is a negative thing because it's giving public health agencies, government agencies, authorities a much better view of how we're moving, how we're interacting with each other during a period in time, the pandemic, when this kind of information can literally save lives. And so, if this helps the greater good, I think we owe it to ourselves and to the communities that surround us to say, hey, we understand privacy, we understand there should be concerns, but this is where technology does good, and we should be supporting it and encouraging it.
Okay, so for the greater good, I think then we really do have to add this to the list. A company called Cold Snap, apparently at the Consumer Electronics show, that, normally it'd be all these cool things happening. They're doing it virtually, but they're talking about this machine that I can put on my counter in the kitchen and it makes ice cream. Now that's for the greater good.
Oh, it totally is. Who doesn't love soft serve ice cream? I mean, this is, of all the classic foods, especially, a Canadian summer, who doesn't have a soft serve memory somewhere buried deep in their brain? And you can make it at home. They're saying that they will be the